Well, good morning, everybody. This is a Gulf Harbour Radio, Patricia and David, and it is the 4th of October. Stunning that the year is just disappearing on us like this. Just been talking to iCandy up there at Port Sandwich with 27 degrees. I can tell you that that is over double what we have. 11 degrees here. 1017.3 rising, fortunately. 4 knots of southwest wind and 95% cloud cover. There is a possibility that it might be a laundry day later on this afternoon. I'd hate to tell you when the last time we washed our sheets was. It has been miserable. The only good thing about this time of the year, because October is always a dreadful month, but asparagus are in the markets. Now, I bet iCandy, who are off to the market this morning, are not going to find asparagus, but lovely fresh asparagus in the market here in New Zealand. We had a nice pasta dish last night. So, this is the odd thing to keep us cheerful. Nothing from NIWA is keeping us cheerful. NIWA is our national, what do they call themselves? Institute of Water and Air or whatever. They have told us that September was below average temperature. Well, we could have told them that. And they have said that it is going to be no different for the next 3 months. It will be a chilly October, as we know, and wetter than normal for November, December. Boy, I bet people are going to change their minds about coming to New Zealand. They'll probably go to Australia. Mind you, the good news is, folks, that NIWA predictions are never very accurate. So we're hoping that will be the case this year. But I tell you what, it is quite funny to see predictions of lower than average temperatures when you open the paper and they're talking about global warming in Europe and how things are melting over there. Well, we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? Okay, it sounds like conditions are pretty good on the radio this morning, so that's excellent news. Got good copy from Port Sandwich where those guys were off to the market. They'd had a little shower. It's overcast. 1014, 27 degrees. Got a text message in from No Worries. Jossie and Jax are on their way from Mommy Bay. They left yesterday, so about 1 day away. That left a pretty rough seas with 20 to 25 knots of wind. Currently they are at 20 roughly and 176 east with 15 to 20 from the southeast. The southeast swell is 2 metres. Good to get these reports in. Nancy and Tim on Laris, they left Minerva a couple of days ago. They are now at 25, almost 25 and a half south, and 178 degrees east. They are motor sailing. It's about 8 knots from 210, so we'll call that southwest, 70% cloud cover. They've got a southwest swell, 1.5 to 2 metres, 622 to go, so they're not quite smelling the barn, but they're certainly coming in better conditions. Freedom Song, Gary, he's heading the other direction, about 590 miles to get to Mumia. He's at 2948 17350. You'll be hearing us this morning for the first time, Gary. Good morning to you. He's got southwest 12, so it's quite moderated there, but the swell is still up, 2.5 metre southwest swell. Pushing them along, 30% cloud cover and 1024 steady on the bar. If I tell you our bar was rising, it's 1017.3. Going to let's go to Fiji now. 10 to 15 knots southeast from Nananui Whake. Whistler seems to have taken up residence there. 80% cloud cover, 1014 and 26 degrees. All right. Just to have a check to see if anything's coming in this morning. We've got Lupan heading from Mommy Bay. It sounds hopefully a bit better today, to Muscat. The news. Well, there's not a great deal of news. Oil price is down. The barrel price, $57 US, 79 a barrel. But needless to say, our pump prices are still up after the attack on the Saudi oil fields. They went up exactly rapidly the next day, and they always take a long time. I don't know how these oil companies get away with it. A bit of a problem with tariffs. The US has now imposed their tariffs on things like Scottish whisky and French wine and Gouda cheese and all the good stuff like that. Not very happy they are in America, particularly with Christmas coming up. These were actually approved by the World Trade Organization after it found the EU Americans found that the EU had unfairly subsidized their aerospace industry. So 25% levy, and it also includes things like British knitted products, and aircraft parts and aircraft. The Dow, because of all this, has dropped another 500 points on top of the 350 points it dropped yesterday. Okay, a big announcement from Australia was that fire coral has been found in Queensland. So I looked at that and I thought, oh my goodness. But it's not coral, it's what they call a fungus that is growing in their sort of foresty areas. It looks like fire coral, but it is a fungus. And it's actually quite dangerous. It can cause brain damage and organ failure. Mind you, people that call something a fungus fire coral probably have already had brain damage.
They've already got
They do call things very strange names over there. You know, firemen are called fireys, and yeah. All right, moving on. Sadly, one of the only 10 remaining Boeing 17 planes still flying in America, the Flying Fortress, crashed in Connecticut yesterday. Killed 7 of those on board. There were 17 on board, so quite a few survived.
That's B-29.
It's a Boeing 17. No, the B-29, the Super
17.
Fortress, replaced the B-17.
Yeah.
The B-17 came out in 1936, but by the end of World War II, it was in fact replaced, as you remember, by the B-29, the Super Fortress.
Yes.
One beautiful picture in the paper, Luna Rossa yesterday launched their America's Cup boat in Cagliari in Sardinia. Oh, I tell you what, it is the sexiest looking boat. If you think that these new America's Cup boats look pretty stupid, you want to see this one. It is, as you would imagine from the Italians, it is absolutely stunning. If any boat could be called sexy, this is it. It has got an entirely black hull, really streamlined at the back, and a big red banner with the traditional Prada name towards the front, and Luna Rossa at the back. And then, as you know, it's heavily supported by Pirelli. So the actual foils are in the Pirelli colours, yellow and red, with the bit at the bottom, just looks like a tyre, is black. It is the most stunning boat you've ever seen. And of course it was launched in true Italian style. The Archbishop of Cagliari blessed it. The fashion house boss, Mr. Prada, was there to smash a bottle of Ferrari Maximum Blanc over the ship's bow, and all of the hoi polloi were there, the Italian Prime Minister, and all the crew and managers of the Luna Rossa Pirelli headquarters. It was looked a stunning effort with all sorts of events out there, and boy, does it look good. And of course, well, yeah, we're part Italian here, and the Italians have, even as a New Zealander supporter, well, I suppose I am, but, you know, we support the Italians too, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have won the 2017. They actually heavily financed our efforts there, and they have worked quite closely with Team New Zealand. In fact, it was the Italians that wanted the monohull back again, so we're all in support of the Italian team. And boy, does this boat look really good. Looking forward to seeing us on the Hauraki Gulf.
You're just like the guys in short pants.
Well, no, it's not them. Right, going to America now. Senator Bernie Sanders has been in hospital for 2 stents put in a blocked artery. His campaign folk are anxious to assure people that this is just a normal procedure, but he is 78. So it's not a good omen for him to lead the Dems in the next election. And of course, Biden's scrutiny won't help him. So we're sort of left with Elizabeth Warren and some of the almost Rands that might come forward now. But anyway, the news from the World Cup in Japan. Ireland beat Russia 35-0. Well, Russians aren't doing too well. We have to get Mr. Putin on the job here. He can maybe poison people off or something.
The Irish were favoured.
Yep, they were favoured. Fiji beat Georgia, so everybody will be quite happy in Fiji, 45-10. Today's game is Italy with South Africa, so that will be quite an interesting one. Okay, moving on to the UK. Mr. Johnson has again confirmed, thankfully, that the UK will leave the EU at the end of the month. And he presented a new proposal yesterday. The border between Northern and Southern Ireland. I don't know why they say Northern and Southern Ireland, where we say North Ireland, South Ireland. But anyway, Ireland is Northern and Southern, and it is, of course, the sticking point. The 1998, boy, it's almost 20 years ago, that was the Good Friday Agreement, which sort of brought an end to the Troubles, explicitly prohibits any physical checks at the border. So it's sort of a bit of a sticking point. So the new proposal is for a few and very limited border checks, but of course the EU has indicated it won't go with this, so it's still a bit of a sticking point. So more on that one probably next week. For those Kiwis who remember 9 years ago the Pike River mine explosion on the west coast, it claimed 29 lives. And yesterday, family members were allowed in for the first time and in the first part of the mine, which has been made safe. This was an election promise from New Zealand First, so Winston has come through on that one. Okay, I know David has an awful lot to cover this morning, and it sounds like there might be a bit of light at the end of the tunnel for those from New Caledonia, so we'll let him deal with that shortly. Good morning to Argo. Tonga Tapu. Wow, we haven't heard from Tonga Tapu or anyone in Tonga for a long time. So they're starting their early stages of weather planning for a run down to New Zealand. Early stages, note that. They must be Kiwis on Argo because they know that how miserable it is in October. Port Vila, good morning to you guys on Eagle's Wings. 9 knots from the east-southeast, 1015. Overcast, and good morning to all of those, in fact, in New Caledonia. And just a thought to leave you with. 2019 we are in at the moment, and this is the last year of our lives, no matter how old you are, with the word teen in it. I bet you really needed to know that. I'm not sure what use that information is for you folks, but it is interesting to know that no matter how long you live, this is the last year with the word teen.
I really needed to know that.
Poor old David. Okay, and I have good news here. Despite the fact that I said it was a lovely morning yesterday, an hour and a half later we did get wind and rain, and the temperatures didn't rise too much. But today I'm actually thinking it might be a day to do laundry. I hate to tell you when we last did our sheets. It has just been wet for so long. And I'm sick of doing inside jobs. I got so desperate yesterday, I cleaned the oven. That shows you how desperate I was to find something to do inside. All right, that's about it from what I've seen on the streaming. I will just check very quickly if there's anything else coming. What have we got here? Tuatara. Good morning to you guys. It sounds like, oh, and here's another one. This is from the northern part of Tonga, southeast, 15 to 20. So they're going to head home mid-October. So we'll catch up with that one shortly. I'll read it properly. And Lady Nada. Where's Lady Nada? All I've got is Lady Nada. It hasn't actually come through on my email. All right. So we'll have to try and find that one after David has finished. And Salwini Bay, no wind, light, high cloud. And with that, I shall pass the microphone.
Is this the boat?
Yeah, that's the boat.
Oh, I'm looking at a picture of the Italian boat. Not about it. That is one fine looking boat. Diego, you ought to be very, very proud of Max. Max and Diego, of course, are Italians. There's probably others out there, but they do know how to make pastas. I can tell you that. But this
and
is
boats.
really,
Yep.
this is good. All right, we're going to start this morning talking about the usual, the same format, and then I'm going to get into how you drug me into this New Cal to New Zealand thing. This is your job. But anyway, I do have some more information on that. So those of you that are in New Caledonia, you may want to get another cup of coffee and stay awake through this first part. And then we'll be talking about the possibility of getting south. So, quick look this morning at 500 millibar. shows a sharp-wave trough over Harvey Bay. It's kind of an interesting place for it to be in the way it's shaped. It's a left-leaning trough. And below that, to the south of that, better way to put it, is a very, very well-formed ridge. And that's located in the Tasman. And in addition to that, there is a well-developed ridge system over central Australia. We'll be seeing more of that as the seasons continue. Now, that left-leaning trough I talked about a minute ago is supporting the surface trough that is basically bothering the Louisiades in that general area up there. But the ridge is really the weather maker this morning. The surface high that it's produced is east of Brisbane, roughly east of Brisbane. Central pressure, very nice, 1024, 1024. I do like to see that when we're passage planning. It's ridging east-northeast to just to the south of Tonga. And if you were to visualize this, I refer, when I say it's ridging east-northeast, it's more or less the axis of the ridge that I talk about. So we have flows from different directions. The flow on the north side of the ridge is almost completely opposite than the flow on the other side of the axis. So that's what we've got. In the subtropics, a quasi-stationary front runs from just south of Fiji to south of Tongatapu, tickling Tongatapu almost, then goes south of Niue, and it goes onward to the southeast, even south of the Southern Cooks. And a frontal band lies over Raoul, good old Raoul and Hermidex. So those are some of the items that are in the way of the yachts that have sailed south. Some are just about got here, some have not. Up in the tropics now, further north, of course, the Solomon's Trough is still active. Now, mesoscale convective systems are prevailing up there. These, if you were to look at satellite imagery, these are the very, very dense, heavy colored conglomerations of clouds. So these are heavy thunderstorms. This is not nice. These can be quite violent. The squalls that come down from them could be quite strong. You could see winds of 40 to sometimes 50 knots briefly. But once they get this big and this tall and this cold, virtually anything could happen. Now that's the area of the disturbance that we talked about the other day. So anyhow, that's there. Now the trough that was just north of Fiji is drifting very slowly toward Fiji. And it reaches at the moment, it reaches northeastward. It's got length to it. So it's reaching northeastward to Wallis and Futuna. It goes on to Tokelau and then the northern Cooks from there. The southern Cooks happen to have their very own trough as well. Now, back to this disturbance that I talked about. It is now, I don't want to say it's gone. It's been absorbed into the Solomon's Trough system. So this is where the mesoscale convective system clouds are. That's our disturbance. So still a lot of activity, but I don't see any cyclonic rotation, which could be a precursor to a tropical cyclone. So it is not happening. I do not see that. So don't worry about it at the moment. So moving along here, looking at Tonga. A weak trough does affect the chain, Tongatapu, Hapais, Vavau. So expect the usual cloud, scattered showers, and that will continue tomorrow as well. The winds are fairly fresh. Now Tonga Met has issued a strong wind warning and a small craft advisory for the entire group. Vavau and the Hapais, they're calling off south to southeast 15 to 20, rising to 25 knots at times. Seas getting up to 2.5 meters. And virtually the same thing tomorrow. Now, the aggressive troughing that I had been talking about now for this whole week looks to arrive Tonga, I would say Tuesday into the Wednesday time frame. The winds look to be mostly northeast feeding the system, northeast 20 to 25. And with a little bit of luck, it may slide south, just tickling the entire chain's west side. In other words, not completely covering all of the islands in the Hawaiias and Tonga Tapu and all that. It's a possibility it may stay just to the west of that. We'll have to see. This is still early at the moment, so time will tell. We'll check it out early next week and see where it really is and where it's really going. Now, for Sunday there, expect easterlies to about 25 knots. The winds are slowly going back to become northeasterlies by Wednesday. And it looks like areas of 30 knots as well by then. If the trough does go over the chain, in other words, doesn't stay to the west, so instead of missing you, it quite possibly then will take in virtually the entire chain, as we said, but the winds are going to shift. So when that does go through, if it goes through that way, you'll have westerlies, and that will probably happen by Thursday. So if you're in the Vavau area, westerlies, you'll always find protection. If you're in the Hawaiias, you've got to search for protection there. And of course, down in Tonga Tapu, you can find some protection. Not easy, but it can be done. All right, over to Fiji now. Another bit of disagreement between Fiji Met and me. Yeah, Fiji Met, well, they're not picking up the trough that I have just told you is sliding south. I'm looking at my satellite loop at the moment, and I'm looking at it. So I'm not so sure what they are looking at or what they're thinking at the moment, but they certainly are not picking this up at all. What I'm seeing are heavy cloud formations, very, very cold upper air, and that's the recipe for thunderstorms heading that way. So I'm going to call for heavy cloudy periods with frequent showers. Now, Fiji Met has issued a strong wind warning for southwest Viti Levu waters, the Kendavu area, all of the waters around Kendavu, and that also is going to take in Betui Rock Passage. That's not unusual. Tends to always get windy right through that area. So anyhow, that's official. Fiji Met has a strong wind warning for those areas. So we're talking about southeast winds, 20 to 25 knots right through tomorrow. And they're calling for southeast 15 to 20 for the rest of Fiji, building to 20 to 25 knots. So that's into tomorrow as well. And all of this is going to bring rough seas and a moderate southerly swell. By Monday, this is me talking now, not them. By Monday, I'm looking at northeast winds to 25 knots and parts of the southern Lao getting up to 30 knots. Also on Monday, as I've been saying all week, this disturbance looks to arrive over the group. Now, again, Fiji Met has not mentioned this at all. They don't seem to be concerned about it. They may be right, and I could be totally wrong, but it's better to be safe and be a little bit conservative. Chameleon would be. We'd be a little bit worried if we were up there. But anyhow, just keep your eyes open. Look at your modeling. Look up at the cloud buildups, what they look like, direction they're coming from, all that sort of thing. And just be prepared for this possibility of a disturbance, be in an area where you do have very safe or reasonable anchoring and not too close to your neighbor. Over to Vanuatu now. That's showing plenty of cloud. That means off and on showers, and I'm seeing this on imagery. So I'd expect this for the day. The winds are quite fresh as well. East, southeast winds, depends on where you are. 25 to 30, getting right up there. Very rough seas, 2.5 to 3 meters over the open waters for Vanuatu. And that does get pretty nasty when that happens. The wind's a little bit lighter on Sunday, southeast 15 to 20, and lighter yet on Monday. It looks like southeast in the 15 knot range. Now that disturbance that I talked about for Fiji that may or may not get to Tonga is actually starting in the Vanuatu area. So if you were to look at some archives on the loops, on the satellite loops, you'll see that everything sort of began with that tropical disturbance that I talked about early in the week, how that's merged into mesoscale type clouds and the trough building and so forth and so on. You can see how it's developing. Okay, over in Newcastle, there's cloud there too. I would say quite a bit of cloud in the Loyalties. Looks like troughing cloud to me. And those clouds there are moving northwest to southeast. While in our southern lagoon, the Grand Terre area, our favorite little southern lagoon, we've got cloud there too. It's quite broken, but it's moving in the opposite direction. It's going southeast to northwest. So two different systems from what I can see. Winds today, east-southeast about 15 to 20. Up in the Loyalties, pretty good chance of showers today. And it looks like rain tomorrow. Doesn't look very nice for tomorrow at all. The winds look to ease on Sunday, light and variable for the lagoon. East-southeast 10 to 15 for the Loyalties. So not bad at all for Sunday into Monday. I'll give you actual conditions this morning. The Outer Reef, east-southeast 23 knots. Ile de Pan, east-southeast 10 to 15. Noumea, east to east-northeast 10 to 20. Big range there. Lifu, southeast to east-southeast, about 15, and gusts getting up to 23. 15 rising up to 23. So that's the story. That's your synoptic analysis and a little bit of preview for the next few days. And so what we're going to talk about now is New Caledonia. And I'm going to give this to the boss just for a minute so I can have a drink of my coffee here.
It's not coffee, folks. It's no sugar Coca-Cola, and it's not approved by me. I'm just going to confirm with him that when he talks about New Cal to New Zealand, does that include PV, Port Vila? We have Kuperi. They've got a very difficult trip, actually. They're trying to get through to Nelson. But does it include?
No.
Doesn't include. All right. So that's a separate issue. Got quite a list here, actually. Got a couple of boats wanting to get from Tonga to New Zealand, a couple from Fiji, and the rest, I think, are all from New Caledonia, apart from Kuperi with that difficult one. Not because it's Port Vila, but it's getting through to Nelson is quite a challenge. Anyway, the subject now is the all-important getting from Newcastle.
Okay, I'm going to bore you to tears because I'm again going to go through the basic features and averages, and it's important that you know these. Like I say, they're my numbers, but they've proven valuable in the past, and I'll go through it pretty quick because I said it yesterday as well. So again, the average cold front that we have in the Southwest Pacific, it goes 20 to 25 knots. That's the axis of the cold front itself. This is not the wind that's in the front. That wind could be much, much higher. This is how fast the actual frontal band itself is moving. And that's about 8 to 10 degrees per day. And that means if you saw one over Tasmania, it would be over New Zealand in about 2.5 days. That's an average cold front. We have faster ones that can travel up to 40 knots, and we often see those too. Now the high centers, they pretty much average about 15 knots, but I think the last couple of seasons they've been more in the 20 knot range. So call it that, call it 15 to 20 knots. And if you see one over Tassie, at the center of it usually takes about 4 days to get over New Zealand. Now the actual low itself, the actual depressions, they travel at about 25 knots, which is about 10 degrees a day. And if you see one that's again over Tasmania, gets to New Zealand in 2.5 days roughly. Now, some other little things, New Caledonia to 30 south. The magic number, again, 30 south, because I reckon that that is the point where you make your decision to put a little more easting or a little more westing or just continue on course. Gives you enough time to do that, to take into account weather changes. And that's about 480 nautical miles. And that takes the average yacht about 4 days to get from New Cal to 30 South. And then from 30 South to New Zealand, that's about 300 miles. And that takes about 2.25 days, roughly. And again, if you're faster or slower, you could make your adjustments. Now, some of the ideas, when I'm just looking in general at when I'm starting to plan a window, there's some things I like to see. I like to see a high over New Zealand. Sometimes I like to see it over New Zealand when I'm still up in New Cal. Certainly I'd like to see it when I'm at 30 South. And that particular high would be in the Oz Bight, about 130 degrees east, about 5.5 days actually prior to leaving New Caledonia. So as you're doing your planning, look to see, is there a high there? Oh, yep, there's a high there. And that's about it. Those are the key things that I look at in general. Now, what I'm going to do now is to look. I spent a fair amount of time at possible windows. Now, we know about the one that's already happened, the boats that have left last week. A couple of them have gotten hammered pretty good with some pretty stiff headwinds. And if you'll remember, we didn't think it was a very good window. Now, there's actually the possibility of a window leaving tomorrow. And if you look at departure conditions, it doesn't look too good, or it doesn't look too bad at all here, but that would put the arrival in New Zealand about the 11th or the 12th. And if you take a look there at your various models, you'll see a depression happens to get in the way. Drat. Yep, a depression looks to form just north of New Zealand. Not a good event, something you probably want to avoid. If it weren't for that, this would have been a doable passage. In fact, one where you definitely would go east of Norfolk Island, and it would actually be an interesting arc that you would do to get here. But we're going to scratch through that one. The next one is next week. That would be Wednesday the 9th. And that would put arrival on or around the 16th, New Zealand. So what you would see is quite a bit of light air on this passage, very light air. It would be mostly a motoring trip. And what air that you do have when it starts to build in, they're headwinds. So that's not very nice. You burn up all your fuel, noisy, and
This doesn't sound like a passage window to me.
no, it's not. So we're going to scratch that.
Oh.
So we're going to scratch Wednesday the 9th. Now this is chameleon scratching things. You may actually decide to go, regardless of what we say. Now, this is the one that maybe will do it. So a big smile over there. Okay, now I've got the arrival of this one on the 18th of October. The 18th. And it's that day, if everything stays as the models are projecting, And
It's a long way away.
as you know, it's a long way away, says the boss, and she does know how the models change. But the 18th, if nothing changes, it's a very nice looking arrival. Now, backing up, it means leaving New Caledonia around the 10th, 11th, or 12th, right in there. And you'll see at that point, New Caledonia it is going to have light and variable air. In fact, probably a motor to get out of Dodge, so to speak. Very, very light air, no discernible direction. Now, that'll always change. Needless to say, we'll start to see something different when it gets to that point. But that would be your departure dates. In between the departure and the arrival, we're going to initially have easterly trades, and then we're going to see the high that's part and parcel of this passage, which, by the way, is going to be over New Zealand when you are at about 30 south, and backing up to what I said are one of the things that we look for. That means that as you go from 30 to New Zealand, the winds are going to start to back as the high moves east. So that means you're going to see very lovely northeasterly winds as you slide into New Zealand. So this is what we would pick at the moment. So we would use this as our target departure and arrival dates, and we'll be looking very closely at the models, how they're changing. One of the things we would like to see is they don't change very much. We know they're going to change, but we don't want to see radical changes because that'll screw everything up. So there you go. For those of you, the big gaggle there that are waiting to
Well, if you get down to Isle of Hunt.
Might even be warmer here. And yes, you could head to Ile de Pan and depart from then. Then it makes the trip shorter. It's up to you. But anyhow, on that date, it looks pretty late wherever you happen to be. So that's all from me. We'll talk about this Monday when we get back and see who actually has left over the weekend. I'm sure there will be some people that have decided to go and will have gone. And again, please give us your conditions. We appreciate that. And that's all I can think of. Keep your fingers crossed. And we will be back on Monday. So at the moment, here's the chief.
All right. Well, it gives people a bit of time. I was getting a bit worried about this business of tomorrow. There's a few reports have come in too, which are of interest to people. Thank you, French Polish. They're on their way from Fiji to Whangarei, 2439 17412 east, and 70% cloud cover, 1021 with only 8 knots of south-southeast. So pretty reasonable conditions there for them. So good morning to all you guys on board. Messatroy and Kuhela are in Noumea, or Kuhela's out at Metra. He says 10 knots southeast, inside Noumea, east-northeast 5, so a bit of difference there. Pretty much 100% cloud, 1018.5 from Kuhela, 1020 from Messatroy. Up to Uvea, 22 degrees up there, and from the Hotel Anchorage, boy, things have changed in Uvea. Good morning to James and Chantel on Q. 1017, 16 knots of wind there, 22 degrees. So sounds not too bad up there. Scoots, this is a bit different from what you've just reported and what the satellite picture looks like. They're at Tavua Bay on the north coast of Viti Levu. Light from the southeast, and it's sunny. But they do see a layer of dark grey clouds to the north and west, so maybe it's coming. Another passage report, Lady Nada are on their way to Opua. They've changed their mind from Auckland. You can do this, folks. It's no problem at all. Just let Maritime Radio know. We always check in with them, but if you're checking in with Northland, I'm sure Peter would do it. But it's easier to just go straight to Maritime Radio and let them know you are changing your destinations. there are people everywhere, so it just keeps everything hunky-dory. Lady Nada is heading to Opua now at 22.34 and 17347. Ripping along 8 knots on a course of 200. They've got 18 knots from the east to southeast. It was southeast last night, but it's backed a little bit east to southeast. Decent seas now, 1.5 metres southeast and 85% cloud cover. So there you have it, folks. Really good to get those reports in for people coming along. So there you go. All right, that's about it, and we will be listening now, just in case there's anybody there. Let us know if propagation changes. The sun is coming south, not that you'd know it from our temperatures, but it could well be a little bit of a change. David wants the microphone back again. Hang on.
No big deal. Those in Vanuatu, Trish asked the question about the state that we're talking about, this arrival on the 18th. Would that apply to Vanuatu? I haven't really looked at what the weather's going to be in and around Vanuatu, but this could very well be okay for them too. And come Monday, I'll look at exactly this passage and see what's changed over the weekend to see if the days that I picked are still any good. And I will look at Vanuatu as well. I'll lump Vanuatu in with Newcastle. And that is probably one of the hardest passages, and that is from Vanuatu, particularly if you're way up north, because you've got to get all the way south before you clear yourself of all of the seamounts and that whole mess before you get into the open ocean. So it's a difficult one. We've done it a number of times, but the further south that you can get before you actually kick off, obviously the better. So there you go.
Well, before you go, if you could have a look, please, at leaving Tongatapu on Monday. There's a group of boats going to Minerva. Now, going to Minerva is an excellent idea, but let's just have a look at going to Minerva on Monday from Tongatapu. The other thing, folks, if you've got a really scratchy, horrible receive on SSB, just check what is on your boat that is on. And certainly chargers for computers, fridges going on, some lighting. We can't put any of our fluorescent lighting on when we want to listen to the radio. Just have a look at what is on in the boat. Even if it's just it's on but not on, if the panel is on, just make sure it's not coming from your boat. If you're at Big Mamas, they run generators there, and that's probably the problem if you are at Pangamotu. But just check that it's, if you're having trouble receiving, check that it's not on your own boat, because there's all sorts of things on board that can cause interference. We just have to turn everything off. We've done our best with chokes and, well, certainly the alternator is a big pain, and certainly fridges and freezers are a big pain. But make sure lights are not on, make sure teenagers don't have their whatever the electronic gear that they've got, make sure they're not charging at the time you're trying to listen on the radio. Okay, so we're now going to have a look at what the passage would be like from Tongatapu to Minerva if you left on Monday.
All right, good morning on that. And from a wind standpoint and direction, it's fine. But I can tell you I don't like what I see. Arriving at Minerva, you quite possibly are going to be in the middle of this disturbance that's going to be affecting Fiji, stretching to the south. Now, we're not quite sure what direction it's really going to take, but looking between Tuesday and Wednesday, which is when you would be in Minerva Reef, this disturbance is pretty much going to be over you, and I'm a little fearful that you could be in the middle of this, which is not going to be a good idea. Now, I don't know when it is that you're going to leave on this, but
Monday.
Yeah, well, what I mean, I know it's Monday, but I mean early Monday or later on Monday, because I was going to say if you want to wait until we actually update all of this Monday morning, if you wait before you cast off the lines, we'll certainly have a good idea of what the weather is going to be. So if you're flexible enough to do that, then fine. We have a lot on Sunday, but if this is really important, if you give me an email very late Sunday afternoon, I can take a look at what the developments are then. It would be better Monday morning because we'd have more model update. But I'd be happy to help you out on that Sunday afternoon if you need it, if you can't wait. So there you go. This has the potential of being not nice, and there's no point in being in Minerva if the conditions are poor. I mean, it's a fantastic place when it's nice. So here's the truth.
All right, maybe one of you can be the spokes email person, and we can have a look at that. Yeah, we have a big day on Sunday. I won't bore you with the details, but there you are. Jason on Argo would possibly be a good person there. I know that with a family on board, he probably needs to keep them happy, so he can be the spokesperson. All right, cheers everybody, and we will be back again on Monday. Have a very good weekend.
I get married in Newcastle, not wait for her.
Yeah, David's just commented, and this is actually for one of the boats in Newcastle. He said he'd get married in New Caledonia rather than wait for here. But there you are.
A lot can happen in between.
A lot can happen in between. Well, that's why we better get them a decent passage, haven't we? All right, folks. Cheers, everybody, and we'll be back again on Monday. Bye. Can't hear any questions. Oh, here's one coming in. Any word report on the Plummersfield locations?
Oh, not that
Trying
again.
to get from Sabi to Mandy.
I do not. I will not answer any more questions.
There is. It's certainly at Nananu Ithaki, but it's just a bit of stuff. It's really no big drama. Just don't run your engine if you see. I'm just going to turn this off because this is on streaming. Don't run your engine and don't flush your toilets. Just get through it, and it's not all that big a drama.
This is every year it's there.
Well, it's not every year, but this is actually quite normal, and it's no big deal. So just keep a lookout and don't run your engines. Gone with the Wind has got pumice in the Blue Lagoon, and certainly it's at Nananu Ithaki. We've got some good pictures from Whistler there, so that's where it is at the moment. All right, I'm going to turn this off and turn this on, and then I'll leave the streaming on for a minute or two in case there's people wanting to talk to each other. And what you're hearing in the whirring in the background is my antenna going from the 8 megs down to the 14 megs. All right, that seems to be the only thing from streaming, so I'm turning off now. Cheers all.